I hear a lot of people telling me how that's not all that he was. Like the stuff the sound bites that you got, no, he was much, much better than that. He was much more than that. The sound bites, those clips, those horrible things that he said, well, you're taking them out of context. And despite the fact that you can't say those things within any kind of acceptable context, I'm getting a lot of people telling me that, hey, he wasn't all that bad. And the stuff, and we're not talking about his personal life. We're not talking about him away from the camera. I don't know any of that of him. I have no idea what he was genuinely like. I've heard different things, that he was very kind and wonderful and this and that. I have no idea. All I know is what he offered the world through that lens. And I'm hearing people saying, even the stuff that he offered through that lens, it was so good. He was sharing the gospel. He was preaching the word. He was biblically sound. He was sharing Jesus Christ. He was leading people to salvation. I didn't watch him 24/7, but the stuff I watched, that wasn't him. The stuff I watched wasn't loving, and it wasn't gentle, and it wasn't kind and compassionate. It wasn't provisional. It wasn't charitable, and it wasn't merciful. Now you might say, listen, Ed, you only watched like 5%, 1% of all of his content. There's 99% of his content out there was kind and loving and Jesus-like. But that 1%, you're just focusing on this 1%. Well, here's the thing about that 1%. I'm going to tell you a little story. All right, as a Canadian, I grew up drinking beer. And when I was in university, as I got older, I was in university and I met a guy. And that guy had a brother. And that brother worked in a brewery. Now, he worked in a major, massive, big-name brewery. I'm not going to mention it, but it was a big, huge one. And he worked in quality control. Now, he was out there in the vats. He was out there with the vats. So he was walking around around these great big massive, like 50,000 liter tanks. And to get out there, he had to go through a whole cleansing process where he would strip down and he'd put on a special suit and he'd cover his head and he'd be wearing gloves and masks, the whole works, and he'd go out and he'd do his thing. And when he had to go to the bathroom, and I know this is, when he had to go to the bathroom, he would have to leave. He'd have to take it all off, take all that stuff off, put his clothes back on, go to the bathroom, come back in, take his clothes back off, put on a new suit, cover himself out, go out. To go pee, it took him 20 minutes. So guess what he did when he had to go number one? When nobody was looking, he peed in the vat. Now, I don't know how much urine a person normally discharges when they go to the bathroom. Let's say, just for the sake of the math, it's a liter. If I told you in that container, in a normal situation, not life-threatening situation, in a normal everyday situation, if I told you that 50,000 liter container contains 1 liter of pee, are you going to be real happy to drink it? I've never drank that beer again. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should give that beer another chance. No, I have no desire to. I have absolutely no desire to. If I had a container of water, because we were talking about, let's say 1%, if I had a container of water and that container held 100 liters, would you drink out of it if I told you that 1% of it was urine? No, you wouldn't. Why? Because it's got pee in it. That's why. Charlie Kirk may have done 99% pure, lovely, Jesus-like stuff, but that 1% that was hateful, that 1% that was racist, that 1% that was misogynistic, that 1% that was bigoted, it's enough to ruin his witness. And as a Christian, our witness is our greatest asset. It is the thing we must do everything we possibly can to protect. Because that witness is the only thing that matters to people who do not know us and who have not heard the message. And those are the people we are actually supposed to be reaching out to. It doesn't matter how many people like you. It doesn't. It doesn't matter how many people like me. As a priest, if everybody I encounter says, oh my God, he is the greatest single priest. If everybody in my church, if everybody online, a channel subscribers say, oh my God, he is the greatest priest, but nobody outside of my circle can stomach me because of the things that I've said, the horrible things that I've said, then I am absolutely ineffective. Absolutely ineffective. Now, I'm not talking about saying things that others disagree with. That's a different topic. I am saying if I started spitting out nothing but bigoted vitriol, if I started spitting out, no, that's not a great example. If I started spitting out 1% of my content was bigoted vitriol, I'm done. I am no longer going to be able to communicate to the people that I'm supposed to be reaching out to. Our witness is our most important asset. And when Charlie Kirk said that stuff about black women, and when Charlie Kirk said that stuff about women, and when Charlie Kirk said that stuff about migrants, and when Charlie Kirk said that stuff about Muslims, and when he said that stuff about black pilots, he tainted his witness. He peed in his water. You want to continue drinking that water? That's okay with me. I'm not going to stop you. But I will spend my life warning people not to drink water that has pee in it. I'm not saying we have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Heaven forbid. I know I'm not perfect. I don't imagine there's too many of us that have never misspoken. I don't imagine there's too many of us that have never misbehaved. And every time we do, every single time we do, it damages our ability to communicate with the world around us. Perfection's the goal, absolutely. But whenever we mess up, especially in this social media world, it is with us forever. So for those out there that are saying, I can't understand why, this is why. I can't understand why there's so many people who don't like his message. This is why. I can't understand why people aren't lionizing him, why people aren't raising him up, why people aren't praising him. I can't understand why there's people who aren't mourning this online persona that he offered. This is why. There's pee in the water. It's not tolerable. It's tainted. It's gross. It doesn't have to be 100% pee for us not to want to drink it. 1%. Listen, 1% is way more pee than I'm interested in. I mean, shoot, I've got camping gear. We were talking earlier about going camping. I've got camping gear. I've got the tablets. You put tablets in water and it purifies them. I've got the charcoal filter where you take water that you find in the woods, you run it through the filter, and it goes through the filter and into a cup for you to drink. Yeah, I've got that gear. If you tell me, hey, listen, Ed, here's a liter of water, half of it's pee. Can you run it through your filter? And that'll, under normal circumstances, I ain't drinking that water. I don't care if I put 5 tablets in it and run it through 14 charcoal filters. There's pee in that water. When I was kind of a new Christian, I remember watching this. I was at like a youth. How old was I? I was somewhere anyway. It was a revival in North Carolina. It was a revival in North Carolina. This person did a demonstration. He took a perfectly wonderful, cool looking glass of pee-free water. And And he said, this is us. This is our soul. This is who we are, right? This is our, in this case, let's call it, this is our witness. This glass contains your witness. Now, if you put mud in it, what happens? Well, the water's now muddy. Can you take that mud out? You can't. Now, he was doing this whole thing where he dropped a tablet into it, and that tablet made the water perfectly clear. And he said that tablet is Jesus. And yes, in God's eyes, that water is now perfectly clear because of the work of Jesus Christ. But the rest of us still see all the sentiment on the bottom. We still know that glass is tainted, that water is dirty. We still know that water has mud. It just happens to be on the bottom of the cup. Please, Christians out there, I'm not saying this because I'm just going to bash Charlie Kirk. We're learning. We're learning from this moment. We're learning from the things that people are saying about this moment. I would encourage you, please, you people of faith, protect your witness. Protect your witness with everything you have. Kind, courteous, gentle, tender voices. Speak truth only. Never, ever speak hate. Not lead people. Don't lead people in a direction where they're afraid. Don't try to convince people that there are others out there who are seeking to destroy them, just so you can share with them how you can save them. Don't share hatred. Don't share bigotry. Be hopeful. Be hopeful not in that we can solve it by crushing another, but be hopeful in that we can solve it by loving the other. Don't pee in the water. Don't speak words that would taint your witness to those who you're supposed to be sharing it with. God knows in the church we already have enough of them. Throughout our history, the church already has enough of them. We don't need to add to it. Amen.